you, Simon. So first of all, I have to say, for a guy who says he's more comfortable with a power saw than speaking, that was a hell of a presentation. Well done, well done. So you'll probably see in the program too, it's got Ben Henniger listed. I'm not Ben Henniger, my name is Scott Maston. I work with the ASF. Quick call last night, about 9 o'clock, Ben had a family emergency. Hey, can you come down and do this for me? He was like, sure, no problem. And the first thing I have to say is like, what in the world are all you people doing here? Do you see what day it's like outside there? Right? I was fortunate to be able to do this same conference on the Western one in Weymouth last weekend, and it was raining, it was cold, and it was great. We had like 150 people, which was huge, but this is an amazing turnout. So I think really what it really shows is the dedication of woodlot owners in this province and their passion towards the resource and their own properties. I'm a woodlot owner myself, and I know personally, spoke to it very, very clearly, is that it is something you have immense pride in and take great enjoyment in it. So I'll give a quick talk, and Simon said we're a couple of minutes behind, so this is the wrong guy to catch up on time. I see there's a nice bright clock there. I've got 23 minutes. Oh, that's better. I started last week and I immediately got to sign that at 10 minutes. Not happening. So this is good. 23 minutes is good. So I always like to start with the thank yous first, because it always gets to the end and I forget to do it. So first of all, thanks to Department of Natural Resources, Alcoa, who we did a project with, finished up a little while ago, and the FIT program, the Forestry Innovation Transition Trust. I was fumbled through that. Those are the partners that we have delivered a number of programs through. Woodlot owners like yourself. If it wasn't for you folks, we would have really no reason to exist. Contractors and consultants that we work with constantly on different projects, not only just the woodlot owners working for themselves, but working with contractors and consultants. And of course, the forest industries. Because if we didn't have some place to sell a lot of our products, it would make a lot of the work that we're involved with extremely difficult. And it is one of the big, big challenges we have going forwards. And of course, there's lots of people I could thank besides, but trying to keep on time here. So who are we? What's our mandate? Our main mandate is to provide technical and financial assistance to private woodlot owners in this province. And we are province-wide. We also do training for forest professionals. We don't do training for woodlot owners per se. It's kind of one of those things we've talked about. We'd like to try to expand into, but it's only so much time and resource for that. And who we are, we're made up, we're a not-for-profit society. We have a board of directors that's made up of private woodlot owners, woodland owner groups, the forest industry, and of course, the Department of Natural Resources. So Simon mentioned that we do deliver silviculture program. We do. This is a list. I'll run through a quick slide deck here of the different treatments. I'm not going to spend a lot of time about each one, but these are the ones that we are able to provide funding on. I think a lot of times people think that the ASF has like this pot of money that we can just kind of do whatever with. That's not the way it works. We are paid on a contractual basis to deliver a program on behalf of the province of this suite of silviculture treatments that is actually the exact same technical standards as if you're working with a registered buyer like Port Hawkesbury Paper or Irving or whoever. So there's the list of the treatments that we have. Planting is the first one, and that's also what we would say is either full planting or fill planting. And again, that depends on the amount of natural regeneration you have on a site ahead of time. If you need to improve the stocking, change the species mix a little bit. Early competition control. Weeding, for lack of, or to make it in simpler terms, I guess. We do try to focus on plantations as much as possible, but we'll also do natural stands. The reason for that is simple. We do have a finite pot of money that we have to try to spread out across the province, across a number of different treatments. And our thinking is that if it's a piece of ground where investment has already been made on planting trees, we want to try to make sure that we are able to invest in doing some weeding on those areas. Pre-commercial thinning, spacing, it's gone by a number of names in this province, cleaning, whatnot. The DCR is the department's fancy term for it, stands for density control and release. We just like PCT because it's simple. Can be in plantations or natural stands, and if it's softwood, between 2 and 6 meters. If it's in hardwood and natural stands, between 6 and 9 meters. It's kind of one of the most commonly used treatments that we have in the province, and certainly a really good bang for the buck. Commercial thinning, we still do offer that treatment. I know it's one of those ones that post-Hurricane Fiona, the request for that, particularly in this part, central and eastern part of the province, really took a hit. Most of the commercial thinnings that we do now take place in the western part of the province. But it is still a viable treatment. It can be done in plantations or natural stands. Just need to be very careful about where you choose to do it to make sure that you don't set yourself up, make it more susceptible to windfall than what it could possibly be without doing this treatment. And of course, selection management. And again, this is one that took a real hit from requests for this kind of work in central and east, primarily because of the Fiona hurricane. They really knocked down a lot of these stands. So that's the suite of treatments that we do. I'm going to talk, you've heard me say Fiona now a couple times, and it's hard to believe, like it's almost 4 years ago. It's coming up to 4 years since this happened. But when you travel around still central and eastern part of the province, there is still a ton of it out there on the ground. Some of it's on the ground, some of it's still standing, a lot of it's on the ground. But if you look at those two pictures, the one on the top left, the one with all the yellow coloring into it, that was the damage map that was produced by the province through some photo interpretation and some change interpretation from satellite imagery. And it was just to give an idea of where the concentration of damage was. It's kind of very interesting because I don't have it on this map, but if you're aware, the eye of the hurricane, where it went through, it came ashore around Larry's River towards Canso, went up across right through Lake Ainsley and out the Margarita Rivers, pretty much where the eye went. So you can see there's on the western side of that, everything on the mainland is colored in yellow. I've been saying now since that happened is that we're probably not going to need to carry a compass in this part of the world for the next 20 years because every tree on the ground is pointed south. It was the most directional storm I have ever seen. And it's kind of conversely because when you go out to the very eastern tip of Cape Breton, every tree is pointed north. It's quite astounding when you see it. Anyway, the one in the bottom right-hand corner, we had a couple of programs that we administered for the department through the ASF to help clean up those areas. And the dots that you can see, they're different colors. They just have to do with different programs and different rates and things we had. But in general, anything that's a colored dot in that is where we did assist woodlot owners in getting some cleanup done. And you can see it matches up as far as intensity with the color of the yellow on the damage map. So there was lots of this. And I'm sure you folks have all seen it. You probably had some of it on your own properties. The one on the left was a selection management job that got whacked. And the one on the right was a commercial thinning job that got whacked. And there was lots of that happened. And thank God drones are around because they really make life a whole lot more simple as far as getting out trying to evaluate the extent of the damage, because you can just imagine the torture of trying to travel through that to see what you're dealing with. So we had to come up with programs to help woodlot owners. We had to tailor them to meet the different damage conditions that were out there, the types of forest types that we had, what the market conditions are, which are extremely challenging, and they're not getting any better, at least in the short term. We hope there's something coming down the road, but we'll see. There's lots of chatter in the news about new biomass, those kind of projects coming on. Really promising, but we're not there yet, so we're hopeful. And of course, those programs had to meet landowner expectations because we didn't want to be just simply promoting land clearing or clear cuts. There were lots of situations where the damage still allowed folks to do a form of selection management in the process just to get things cleaned up and maintain some mature cover. So it's really easy math. We had two programs. It was a total of about $14 million that got spent on Fiona programs. They covered approximately 14,000 hectares. You couldn't have planned it out any easier. It worked out to about $1,000 a hectare, just by the way it worked out. So that's 14,000 that we assisted on. Of course, there was lots of ground that was cleaned up that we didn't or weren't able to, or people didn't ask us for help to clean up. I believe the estimate from the province from their damage map was around 35,000 hectares. So just goes to show you there's still lots of it out there. So now what? So we had a pilot program. I would say it's interesting that we called it a pilot program to bring mechanical site preparation back into the fold of silviculture treatments after being missing for the better part of 20-25 years. Did my heart good the first time I saw a piece of ground with a mechanical site preparation done again, because you can just imagine, particularly on these hurricane damaged sites, where the ability to sell low-grade product and there's so much damaged product and torn up ground, the ability to plant those sites and get them properly stocked and get those trees growing was really challenging. So we were able to get a site prep program initially through a COA, and then the province stepped up to extend that again so that we do now have a mechanical site prep program underway with the ASF. It was limited funding. It is completely booked up right now. Unfortunately, we could use more, but we have a bit of issue of capacity in this in this province as well for this program, because we went for so long without having much mechanical site prep done. And hence, and I saw Ryan walk in kind of after things got going. Maybe step back out again. I'm not sure, but anyway, so. This is a disc trencher, an old piece of mechanical site prep, basically made for tearing up slash, and as you can tell by the picture, there's lots of rust on it. So I know this piece of gear had to get dug out and reconstituted to get it back into the fold of doing sites. So this is just actually a drone shot of a disc trencher site that was completed. That was actually an old field white spruce site. That was damaged very heavily by Hurricane Fiona. It went through the salvage program, and then the rows that you can see through that are very clear are the disc trencher creating paths for the planters to be able to get trees planted properly. Another old piece of tech, shark fin barrels and chains. Basically, you're dragging a bunch of old iron through the cutover, tearing up slash. The whole idea is to make it so that those micro sites for planting, the particular sites that are suitable for planting the trees, are equally distributed across the area so we can get those planted. And just an example of what it kind of looks like after the fact. You can see a lot of the brush has been torn up. So going forward, we hope to be able to, change that. That's a picture of a severely Fiona damaged area, and get it back to that at some point in time. Try to get it back as quickly as possible. So talk about the low grade. This is going to be really short and quick. We do have a pilot project through the FIT program to help landowners and contractors to move low grade product. It is province-wide. It should help to reduce the fire risk, getting rid of some of that low grade product off of some sites. Get it back into forest production as quickly as possible, get hopefully a little return for the landowner on the product. And again, that funding is very limited. It is completely booked up, but we're hopeful. Kyle mentioned it again, that there is more low-grade money coming down the road. We continue to advocate for that. We don't have anything solid yet, but we are hopeful going forward. The real answer down the road is we need markets. There's no substitute for that. So any kind of a program is still going to be a Band-Aid until we get to a place where you have markets that can sustain the resource. One of the things we have really done, when I started with the ASF a year ago in December, I came on with the ask of we need to really build on our auditing and monitoring program, because at that time Fiona was going hot and heavy. We had the ACOA program for site prep on the go, which was several $1 million. So we had a lot of money flowing through this place. And what I always like to mention to folks is to remember that all of these programs, whether it's the road program, the silviculture program, the Fiona cleanup programs, who's paying for all that? We are. Every one of us here. Every person you bought a Tim Hortons from this morning is paying for those programs. So we have to be smart. We have to be efficient. We have to spend that money where it is as efficiently and effectively as possible to make sure that we're achieving those goals. So what we initially started is to do for the Fiona program, we moved it onto our silviculture program. We're trying to audit every claim that we get for every program that we get, and that includes a desktop audit, but also a field audit. We've updated our silviculture criteria on the website. They're not new, they're just kind of clarified. We do try to do pre-approvals where necessary, so if you're looking to do a treatment through us, and if you're not really sure if it quite qualifies, whatever, please reach out ahead of time, because there's nothing worse than getting a claim from somebody and you go out. I've had to do it several times. It's the worst job in the world, and they say, geez, look, isn't this a great job? Yeah, it is. I can't pay you for it because it doesn't fit any of the treatments that we can fund. So please write ahead of time if you have any questions. We've used drones a lot. That has been a game changer for us, just to be able to get that quick view ahead of time before we actually go then and put the boots on the ground to have a look. So that has been, we'll spend a lot of time on that. I see Irving actually has one on their table out there. Brian mentioned, I think, that you've used one on your woodlot. Is that in conjunction with your Christmas trees for spring? Yeah? Lots of cool stuff drones can do. We just barely touch. You want to talk about drones, the guy sitting right there too, Kerry Easthouse, he can tell you all about it. So yeah, that's just a quick and dirty of the process that we run through. I don't have to spend a lot of time on that. Oh good, I'm still at, oh, you're going to hold up the signs for me. You're in charge of keeping people on track today. Good stuff. Quick shot about our training that we do, and again, this is forest professionals. It's really around what's called the pre-treatment assessment required for doing work on crown land, but it's also used, particularly the forest ecosystem classification, and also the SGM measurements is used a lot in private lands as well. Lots of interest in the biodiversity training that we do from both professionals, but also lots of ask from woodlot owners and biologists across the province. We administer the Provincial Scaling School, and we do it with our own staff that has a pretty broad expertise, and we bring in external experts when required, and we do some initial as well as follow-up refresher courses. Okay, switch topics, going to biodiversity. I always like to ask this question because I'm not a biologist. How many people here consider themselves a biologist? Is there anybody here who's okay, one at the back? Just one? Two? Okay, don't be shy. I mean, it's not like it's not even bad, not at all. When I did this one down west last week, I asked that question. In fact, I had to follow a biologist who gave a really good presentation. I had to follow them, and there was like 6 people put up their hands that they were biologists. I was scared to death because I'm not a biologist. So I always like to preface this too with a full admission up front that I'm a complete nerd, a forest ecology nerd. How many people here have seen the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once? Oh, that's good. That's better than I had last year. Okay. The movie has nothing to do with biodiversity. I just like the title of it because it's very applicable to this. People tend to think that you can have biodiversity of everything, everywhere, all at once. It's not the way it works. Forests are dynamic and they change. They go from, cutovers or damage from natural events, from young successional stands grow right up through to mature late successional things. Each one of those things provide different habitat for different things. Not all the things are happy with the same kind of habitat, right? So sometimes when we say things are good for biodiversity or bad for biodiversity, good and bad are human constructs. The critters that like specific habitat don't care about our version of good and bad, okay? So when we say biodiversity is simply different. It is simply different. Sometimes it affords more opportunities for biodiversity, which could be good, but it's not always for every single species. So what I'm going to throw up on the screen here really quickly are some of the things that you can think about for your own personal woodlot that you can afford to quite easily or have the opportunity to provide certain habitat components that allow for biodiversity to be on the whole landscape. Maybe you can't have all of it on your woodlot, but on the landscape as a whole, we can have it. And of course, the first one is right in conjunction with the first picture is around snags and cavity trees. So a couple of good examples here. The one on the left looks like a white spruce that a pileated woodpecker has done a job on for a feeding. Probably not nesting in that tree itself, it was probably only feeding, but those cavities can provide denning sites, nesting sites for secondary cavity users like chickadees, like squirrels, flying squirrels, that kind of thing. Good example of a denning tree on the right there, and a big old yellow birch with a big den, big rotten spot at the bottom that provides an opportunity for denning sites. Those are really easy to keep on your property when you see them because they're really easy to find. Again, another picture of a snag tree. You can see again the feeding holes created by some kind of woodpecker. And of course, just remember that those standing snags eventually provide future coarse wood and material lying on the ground. So snags are the future of coarse wood and materials. And coarse wood and material provide great things like this picture of a nurse log. You can see a number of young yellowbird seedlings starting to regenerate and grow on that fallen log. There's all kinds of lichens and mosses growing on there. Those coarse wood and materials, particularly the bigger ones, they provide for moisture retention on the site because we all know how they're like this giant sponge that are a slow release thing. They can release moisture to the soil. They help maintain soil moisture. As they break down, they're releasing nutrients back into the soil, so it's that whole nutrient recycling thing. And they provide habitat for any number of small vertebrates and invertebrates, and then the predators that feed on them as well. So coarse wood and material on the ground is incredibly important for biodiverse opportunities on your property. Vernal pools. These are ones, this part of the world we certainly have more of them. When I was down west last fall, very few people have them down there. It's just different geology, different forests down there. They do have them, but not nearly as common as they are here. Really common in the upland hardwood forest. So these are ponds that hold water not all year round as opposed to an actual pond, right? These will go dry in the summertime. Of course, last summer they really dried out. But these provide really biodiverse rich spots. A lot of rare plants will grow in conjunction with these in the woods. They provide, of course, water habitat. I know if anybody else, you sure have heard the spring peepers singing the last couple nights. They've been going nuts now that it's gotten warm. They love spots like this. Lots of amphibians or reptiles will use these. They're great little biodiverse hotspots on your woodlot. And they're easy to see when it's dry, because this is what they look like when they're dry. You get a lot of grasses and forbs and gramineae, and you tend not to get trees growing out in the middle of them. So when people say, oh, well, how do you know it's a pool? That's why it looks just like that. Things like beaver ponds, talking about ponds. These provide both aquatic and semi-aquatic habitat. It provides structural diversity and species diversity on your property, and it does help with water control and retention. Now, there is a limit to everything, and I'm a firm believer of a place for everything and everything in its place. Well, the beaver pond, plugging up the culvert on your woods road is not the place for it, right? But to have it as part of your resource, as part of your woodlot that provides opportunity, it's a great thing to have because it does provide lots of opportunity. And of course, dens and caves, these are far more rare, but it's really important to remember that if you do find one on your property, they are protected by law. Okay, you do have to make sure that you don't disturb those. And if you have any doubt about silviculture or biodiversity issues, or you have some interest in your property and you're not sure, talk to a forest professional. There are lots of us out there. So here's our small crew. I'm sure you guys all know Dave Sullivan. The other crew, I've been here the least amount of time, but we have a small but mighty crew. And I thank you for your time. Do you have any questions?